Germany's foreign ministry summoned the Iranian ambassador after news that Iran carried out its first known execution of a protester since anti-government demonstrations began in September. Mohsen Shekari was hanged on Thursday, and activists warn that at least a dozen other Iranians face the same fate for their involvement in demonstrations.
Behind the walls of the notorious Evin prison, Mohsen Shekari was hanged on Thursday. The death sentence against the 23-year-old was only handed down in November and has now been very quickly carried out. Iran's judiciary accused Shekari of injuring a militia member during the protests. Human rights groups condemned the proceedings as a fast-track show trial lacking an independent defense intended to scare off other protesters. On Thursday morning, broadcasters close to the Iranian regime shared this video on social media. It was supposed to prove Shekari's guilt. Accompanied by dramatic music and the use of computer-generated scenes of violence, the regime staged a dubious admission of guilt. Observers believe that the confession was extracted under torture and duress. Iranian-Turkish political scientist Arif Keskin says that's systematic in Iran.
Since the foundation of the Islamic Republic in 1979, the regime has repeatedly imprisoned opponents, tortured them and put them in front of cameras. And now they're doing that with the demonstrators. They want to show them as fearful and weak people, as people who break when they're put under enough pressure.
Only a few days ago, a regime propaganda channel published a video with the famous rapper Tumaj Solehi, who also faces the death penalty. In the video, extracts from one of his music videos were cut together with an interrogation. In it, Solehi apologizes for inciting people to protest. Arif Keskin believes the regime's propaganda strategy is having the opposite of its intended effect. Solehi and others are now heroes to many.
People see these staged confessions really as a sign of the weakness of this regime that's trying to prevent its downfall.
A regime that is increasingly under pressure because the resistance in Iran shows no signs of going away.
Now let's speak to Günther Krings. He's a member of parliament for the conservative opposition party CDU. Mr. Krings, Germany has reacted by summoning the Iranian ambassador. Foreign Minister Baerbock has also condemned the execution via Twitter. Is that enough?
I think it was the least she could do and the government could have done. But I think that our reaction to the government actions here, these incredibly cruel ways to go against these protests, were quite late and not strong enough in the last months. I hope it will get better. I think the German government is beginning to wake up to the very size of these protests, but also to the cruelty of the reactions. And I would have liked to see more in the last month.
When you say you would have liked to see more, what would that be? What are the concrete steps that the German government should take?
I mean, if you compare Germans and also European sanctions, for example, to sanctions in other countries like Canada, I think we could do much more. Our foreign affairs minister, Ms. Baerbock, started to her agenda by saying she wants to have a feminist foreign policy. And Mrs. Baerbock has not delivered on that. Of course, it's not clear what feminist foreign policy means, but so far what I've seen from her reactions to Iran, it probably means nothing. So I don't see that Germany is reacting stronger than, for example, other European partners. And if you have such an agenda, you would expect a foreign minister to react stronger than other countries that don't claim to have such an agenda.
Now, Iran said recently that Germany, particularly Chancellor Scholz, was being too provocative in criticizing Iran, risking long-term damage to the relationship between the two countries. Do you think the government is trying to strike the right balance here?
I think in general, you have to be careful in which countries you say what. So you can make the argument or can ask the question whether it's a good idea to criticize the Turkish government in a press conference in Turkey. But here we have a different dimension of aggression of a country, almost like state terror, what we see here and here from Iran. So there's just a very different dimension from problems that we also have, severe problems in other countries. If we look to Qatar, for example, at the moment, this is another dimension. So you have to react in a different way. And this was not done properly. Germany is the biggest trading partner to Iran. So the suspicion in other countries is we are probably a little bit too lenient, and we should work against this suspicion and also do something to strengthen our reputation also in the Western world.
Now, one reaction is that Germany will now ban the deportation of Iranian asylum seekers here back to Iran on the grounds that they are facing unacceptable dangers if they return. This is something that your party objects to. Why?
Not generally. I mean, of course, you have to distinguish that there might be even asylum seekers here that come here because they are even more radical religiously than the Ayatollah regime in Iran, and that doesn't make sense to stop these people from being deported. But that's probably not the biggest number or the biggest phenomenon. And if you look at to the number of people deported to Iran, was very small in the last months and last years. So I think it's more a theoretical debate here. It's pretty clear that nobody that has any chance to be involved in these protest movements will be deported by the German government, by the German Länder who are responsible for this. And I think the German state, the German Länder are very responsible in dealing with this, no matter which political color they're part of. And so it's I think, quite an academic, theoretical debate.
Günther Krings there from the opposition CDU party here in Germany. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.